In 2006, Domino's was in trouble. Sales were in decline, and the stock price was about to drop more than 50%. During this time, Domino's executives had a big insight about the experience of ordering a pizza. People who called in an order or placed an order online were excited. But then, as they waited, they got anxious. Was the pizza on its way? When would it arrive? Should they call and check? It was an emotional roller coaster. The pizza executives wanted to reassure their customers and fix this problem. And in 2008, they launched their solution, the Domino's Pizza Tracker. You are probably familiar with the Pizza Tracker. It's still around today and people love it. It's a colorful progress bar that shows you visually that the pizza you ordered is being prepared, then that it's in the oven, and then that it's out for delivery. This may sound simple, but today I want to explain why the Domino's Pizza Tracker was, and still is, a very big deal. Because the Pizza Tracker helped power an epic turnaround that gave Domino's a reputation for tech savvy as a tech company that happens to sell pizza, and made Domino's the dominant pizza chain we know today. More importantly, the Pizza Tracker showed a generation of designers that status updates and progress bars can improve products and experiences that range from banking apps to tax software to getting your car repaired. They do it by changing our perception of time. My guest today is one of those designers, Shuya Gong. Shuya is a faculty member at Harvard's Masters in Design Engineering program, and she was previously a design director at the famous design firm IDEO. The Pizza Tracker has influenced Shuya's work for decades, and she's an incredible guide to understanding how the Pizza Tracker has a powerful effect on customer psychology and emotions, and why the Pizza Tracker is one of the most influential design innovations of all time. Shuya Gong, thank you for being here on Gastronomics.
Thanks for having me. Super excited. What are we going to nerd out about today?
All right, so we're talking about the Pizza Tracker today. Let's start here. Do you remember the first time you encountered the Domino's Pizza Tracker?
For sure. I think I was in college, early days, and we were waiting on pizza. It was like a late night dorm room work session. I remember actually being more fascinated with the tracker than interested in the pizza by the time it got there. It was a thing where I was like refreshing constantly to be like, what's the next animation? What is it going to look like now? And so I look back quite fondly on that moment, maybe not as like the moment that hooked me on user experience design, but it certainly is one that stands out in like, oh, noticing the things that really caught my attention.
Wait, so the Domino's Pizza Tracker was like somewhat part of the origin story of your career?
Maybe one. We'll give credit to it being like one of the many, but it was a moment that I remember, and I remember wishing I had taken screenshots of it because it's something that I reference quite often in design work.
Could you just describe what you were seeing for the one person in a million who has not experienced the Domino's Pizza Tracker?
I think it was 5 steps. It had these like arrows that were blue and red in the style of Domino's, the brand. And then it would move through more and more of the tracker progress bar in this like pill shape would be filled out blue against red as the steps were going forward. So I think it was like, we got your order. Second step was someone's making your pizza. I think there was maybe a third step of like, it's being baked right now. And then there was a fourth step of someone is delivering your pizza. And then finally like, congrats, it's been delivered to your door. And I'd always thought that that last step was kind of funny because it's like
Yeah, you're probably aware that
yeah, like
it was
I
just
know, I
handed to
got
you,
it.
but-
Thanks.
Yeah. And so like it was and still is basically like a progress bar or showing the story of your pizza being delivered with kind of, boxes checked. And why was it so interesting to you when you were a student and first seeing it?
I mean, it was one of the most tangible things I could point to about this phenomenon that I kept trying to talk about, which is that we have this weird transitional space between cyberspace and like physical space, or like people have called it meat space before, right? You actually had this like strange transitional moment of doing something in cyberspace and then it just appearing in physical formats. Like when you're going to a doctor's office, you're going to the dentist, wherever, you have the concept of a lobby that you're supposed to wait in. And it gives you all of these signals of like, you are in liminal space. There's nothing for you to really do other than hang out. And I think that the architecture of cyberspace, of digital apps, like didn't really have that. You would call in a pizza and then it would show up. And in between was this thing where you're like, I don't know, did they make it? Did they actually get the order? Is it like, what, like, should I order something else in the meantime? And I think that that tracker was so sticky for many reasons. But the main one that it did for me was create the concept of, oh, you can have spaces in cyberspace that very much mimic specific kinds of spaces that you would see in meat space in the real world. And those spaces very much translate to how is this time supposed to feel?
Yeah. And if I'm summarizing right, it sounds like part of what impressed you about seeing the Domino's Pizza Tracker for the first time was that they were kind of showing a way of like creating online the experience of waiting for your pizza in the store. Like the way that you might see, okay, I see people in the back making pizzas. Ooh, I think that one's mine. Maybe the person at the counter has a chance to catch her eye and be like, oh, yours will be out in a minute. It's like
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
recreating that in-person experience on a website or an app.
I think it's that, and I think that the point that you actually picked up on that was the most interesting is the eye contact of like, your pizza is being created. Please don't approach the counter and like ask me, right? In person, there's a certain sort of desperation that is happening where you're like sitting there being like, is this one mine? Is this one mine? Is this one mine? And you don't need to come up and be like, hello, like I is this the one? Because you sort of are seeing people they're working on either yours or somebody else's. And I think that when you are having an online experience, you don't have that kind of visibility. And because you don't have that kind of visibility, it sometimes gets easier to be impatient and be very indignant about like, where is my pizza? I cannot believe. And meanwhile, they've just gotten a bunch of orders. It's snowing outside. Like there's a lot of stuff happening outside that you don't have to deal with because you are in the comfort of your couch getting pizza magically delivered to you.
Shuya says this is part of the genius of the pizza tracker, because when we don't place our order in the store, we lose all this context. So getting status updates from the pizza tracker reassures us. It lets us relax because we know our pizza is coming. And the pizza tracker does something else too. Shuya says it changes our perception of time.
The experience of waiting is either something that adds to the value of a product or completely subtracts from it, right? So the pizza tracker is one way of helping facilitate and control what that emotional experience of waiting feels like. It gives you more of an expectation. So in waiting for pizza, generally people are like, I want it fast, I want it now. Some places even guarantee like if you don't get it within 30 minutes, it's free, right?
That
Like
was Domino's guarantee back in the day, 30 minutes or
exactly.
less.
Like
Yeah.
that's how valuable time is for someone who's waiting for pizza.
But I think you're also saying that the pizza tracker is kind of speeding up time. Like pizza doesn't actually arrive faster because of the pizza tracker. So what is going on with our perception of time?
Yeah, I think that I mean, there's a lot of like psychology research and studies that are done on like how time perception can speed up or slow down. I did not know you get a PhD in time perception. You can. It's fascinating. One of these phenomenons is when you, for example, walk to a place, like a new place, you don't know where it is, and you're following like a navigation to walk to the place, your way back, if you follow the same route, feels shorter. Even though it might be the exact same minute by minute, second by second amount of time, it feels shorter. And part of that is because you are now already familiar with what you have seen. And so there are so many different tricks and ways for us to perceive that time is happening in a very different way, right? So if you were to close your eyes and open them after 2 minutes, you probably have a natural calibration to shorter or longer than 2 minutes. That just depends on your mood, time of day, whether you have to go to the bathroom or not. Like all of these things add up into it. So the pizza tracker is giving us wayfinding. It's giving us those familiar things to look out for that makes a journey feel shorter. And those familiar things are pizza's being made, pizza's being delivered, it's on its way now.
Yeah. What are some other examples of progress bars out in the wild that are pizza tracker-esque?
I think some of the most interesting ones are traffic lights. Like when you see the countdown of how long you're supposed
Mhm.
to wait for walking, it's a really important one because that makes the difference between someone who's like, I'm gonna just sprint across the street versus like, there's only 3 seconds left. Like, all right, I know how long I'm supposed to wait here. That's fine. So I think that traffic lights another great example of just it does the same thing. It gives you a sense of control and it gives you a sense of like anticipation, less anxiety inducing, you know what to expect here. I think the deli counter is like another example. Deli or bank or anywhere that has the like monitors, it's like currently serving.
Right.
I think it's truly very much showed up in every single industry. So if you are getting nice Italian leather shoes made, they're gonna tell you like it's going to take a month. And then they might send you like a nice handwritten card that's like, hey, like we've cut the leather and we've done this, but it's not really a status tracker of like it will be ready in 7 days. It's just a very nice image of someone who's got hands that look like they've been making shoes for the last 30 years, being like they're punching the holes and sewing them right now.
Are you about to get some very nice handmade Italian shoes
I
delivered?
wish, I
Oh, this
wish.
is
No,
sounding like a
this is
personal
me.
example.
No, vicariously living through a friend who like
Okay.
very excited me, sent me a picture of this postcard. I was like, I wish I was the same size. I want to try these shoes.
Many apps and websites now have progress bars and status updates. Uber shows your driver approaching on a map and texts you when your car is 2 minutes away. Or when you're doing your taxes, software like TurboTax will show you the progress you've made and how close you are to being done. But when Domino's unveiled the pizza tracker back in 2008, none of those existed yet. The pizza tracker really pioneered this idea. Sure, there were shipping companies like FedEx and UPS that gave you a tracking number, but letting customers track their food delivery? Domino's did that first. And they made it fun and memorable. I've talked to designers who called it iconic. I don't know if it's possible to confirm this definitively, but I'm pretty sure Domino's was probably the first to make it fun. Like that it was like a fun branded experience to see the progress.
They did a very good job of branding it, and I think that that actually is what made it feel like it was an integrated part of the process. And they had fun with it. They had like illustrations of what was happening at the time, and they were able to have like personality in the copy that they wrote for it as well. I think they really understood it as like this is another signature experience of our brand. They did make it fun, and beyond fun, they made it valuable to the brand.
You worked at the design firm IDEO. You've worked with clients in different contexts to help them come up with and design new products, apps, websites. Did the pizza tracker have influence on any of that work?
We would oftentimes have clients come in, and then sometimes you just have like sidebar conversations with your teammates because there's like an internal language that you've developed. It's like in a spy movie, you're like, we're going to run the Bangkok mission again. We're going to do the whatever. Right? Like, it's not that serious. But I would oftentimes just be riffing with another designer in the room and be like, oh, you know what? They definitely need a pizza tracker. Like, this is a pizza tracker moment. This is clearly a thing where the main pain point is waiting. And if we can make that waiting process on brand, delightful, valuable, like actually intentional, this would be a good ad. I think it was like one of my favorite things to bring up in every financial product design meeting. So it was good because it took the client.
We have some bankers coming in. We're definitely
Wait.
talking about a Domino's pizza tracker.
Amazing, fantastic. Yeah. Like the slide is in my presentation. It's ready to use.
But for these banking apps and fintech clients, sure you'll want to use status bars and progress updates a bit differently. Remember how the pizza tracker speeds time up so people don't get angry or hangry waiting for their pizza? Well, in the world of online banking, Shuya wants to use pizza trackers to slow down time.
It doesn't actually take that much time for two computers to talk to each other and say, like, is this the amount of money that we're sending over? Yes, this is the amount of money we're sending over. You've got that amount of money? Amazing. Now I've got this amount of money. Computers talking to each other, like, there are no roads that they are crossing. There is no cheese that is melting. It's numbers on a spreadsheet moving back and forth. And so what we would do in that instance is actually slow down the pizza tracker, the money tracker, and instead of giving you a real-time reflection, we might actually give it a little bit of a buffer and make you wait. And that's not to be annoying, but it is to also try to understand that the emotional state that someone is in when they're letting a lot of money go into the ether and that it's being received by somewhere, If it happens too quickly, you sometimes don't believe that it actually happened. You're like, wait, like I blinked and I missed whatever was going on. Like, did it actually go through? And so, in a context like that, slowing down the time and using that concept of a tracker to say, this is the step that's happening right now, it's getting sent to the other party, we're verifying it. Slowing down that time and intentionally and adding some meaningful friction in there means that the experience of waiting is something that you actually want to have. And in that experience of waiting, you're feeling the gravitas and the seriousness of sending over hundreds of dollars to this other magical space in the ether that now has your money.
Yeah, something does feel kind of wrong and disrespectful if I pay my rent and it happens instantly, even though that's kind of what I want. It almost feels like how banks have these like Greco-Roman columns out front, which like, why do those need to be there? This is not a temple in Greece, but it kind of gives everything happening there some gravitas. The fact that it looks like a Greek temple or whatever kind of nice architecture they have that makes it seem like a responsible institution is helpful.
Totally. I think that in the same ways that you expect something to be a certain dollar amount, I feel like you also expect something to take a certain amount of time, right? And when you introduce a new technology or you introduce a new process, it oftentimes totally throws that expectation of time out of whack. And either you slowly introduce it over the course of years, if not decades, to like change the social norm of like, actually, your taxes should only take 5 minutes to do because we've got all your information already from your payroll. Or you sort of have to artificially buffer that sense of time just to meet people's expectations.
In her meetings with fancy clients, Shia did not have to reference the pizza tracker. She could have advised them to add a progress bar or referenced examples like Uber and TurboTax. But Shuya and other designers I interviewed said they found it much more persuasive to show people the pizza tracker.
Without explaining why and without showing the effect in the room of what the pizza tracker was doing, oftentimes that dashboard mock-up was quite easily dismissed. And I think one of the most effective meetings I had was actually like ordering pizza and just putting the tracker on the big screen in the room and being like, so how are you feeling right now? Like, let's experience this together, because what's actually happening is that you are able to, in your body, very viscerally understand how much anxiety is going up or down, how much you feel reassurance, how much you feel groundedness, and then be able to say, like, okay, what parts of that do you want your customers to feel when they are using your product? And so oftentimes it would be like, oh, I had never really thought about this deeply before, but it is true that when I'm able to get a status update, this is something that makes me feel more reassured or better. I remember a project with a city government, and it was a similar demo of like, we're going to order pizza and we're going to use this tracker, because what it effectively was showing was like, hey, if you've got a pothole in your neighborhood, like once you submit it into 311 or whatever your local government way of fixing a thing is, how do you make sure that those issues like get addressed, and they get addressed as they're coming in at the level of priority without this person making this request over and over again to the point where you can't tell if that's a new request or if that was just the original, right? So the anxiety, the anticipation, the empathy that the pizza tracker creates is like, it's fun, it's memorable, we get to eat pizza at the end of it. It's just the right amount of like a emotional field trip to really make the point in a very like relevant way.
Yeah. This seems like a boss move that you would like start your meeting with your important clients and be like, okay, I'll explain why later, but like, let's all order some pizza, like hands up for cheese, hands up for pepperoni.
And now you know why I scheduled this for 4 p.m. on a Wednesday. Like I couldn't take you earlier in the day.
But it also does seem though really valuable to have presented the pizza tracker experience live to your clients. Cause I do think there's a way it can sound kind of silly and would be easy to dismiss as like, oh, the pizza tracker, that seems fun. But then when you experience it, like I remember not so long ago dropping my car off at a dealership to get serviced. And, a few hours go by and I haven't heard anything. They said it probably wouldn't take that long. And I'm like, should I call them? Is something wrong? Did they forget about me? And then like I got a text and it had like a progress bar. It had a pizza tracker and it showed me like, oh, okay, like we just did the inspection on your car. And there was a video that showed them like the car's up elevated so they can look around underneath it. And I was like, oh, they're looking at it. Stuff's happening. It's taking a little bit longer than I expected, but like, I feel fine. I'm no longer like worrying about it. And it's like, yeah, you suddenly in that moment realize that, like, this could be a really big deal, where like in terms of like managing your emotions and expectations. And now I don't need to call you and you don't need to answer. And that's hugely valuable for businesses, not to have to like field a ton of unnecessary customer service calls. Just be like, no, 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 it's on its way. You're good.
Yeah. No, that is what they're trying to avoid is like every time they pick up the phone, they have to interrupt whatever they're doing to handle something that is not going to bring in new business because they have already got your business.
All of these ways that pizza trackers improve our customer experience by speeding up or slowing down time, by reassuring us and comforting us and preventing anxiety or anger. Shuya says there's a catchy name for this: emotional ergonomics. What is emotional ergonomics?
I love this question. Okay. Emotional ergonomics, I think, is best explained in comparison to physical ergonomics. Physical ergonomics, let's say, like, was named as a category or as a study during the Industrial Revolution, when you realize, like, oh, if you make handles a little bit grippier or more comfortable, your factory worker would be able to pull this handle more times without injury to their hands. When the information age came to be, advertising, billboards, like all of that, I would say mental ergonomics really came into play. You don't necessarily think about ergonomics in a mental capacity, but what that really is hierarchy, right? So designers make one font bigger than another font. Sometimes it's done really well. Sometimes it's done not so well, where like I will try to screen share on a Google Meets and I will accidentally leave the meeting because the red button is like way easier for me to find than the screen share button, right? So emotional ergonomics is now this, perhaps we would call, next phase progression of the study of ergonomics, which is how do you make something feel comfortable for people? And it comes with having digital mediums and new mediums to design for new experiences that make people feel things they've never felt before, right? So if you ask people how they feel when they hear the, I can't do, but the Slack notification of the pop-up.
Okay. Yeah.
Those things, or even when you're...
Yeah, I've definitely been in a coffee shop before. One person's Slack notification audibly goes off and you can just kind of see like an entire row of people like tighten up because they like think their boss is after them or something like that.
Everybody's attentional space is tuned in to be like, oh, what is that? So the ergonomics of that moment is not physical. Your seat didn't get warmer or you physically felt like you had to sit up straighter. Nothing really happened from like a cognitive level. It was an instinctual, like, there is a bear behind me and I must freeze. The emotional ergonomics of an experience is something that I think we should be more intentional about designing. So like IKEA will test the sliding in and out of a drawer 10,000 times to make sure that it's quality assurance before it goes out. But I don't know that we had tested 10,000 times of how that sound would make someone react emotionally. And
the Slack notification sound.
Exactly, right? Yeah. So I'm sure it was tested for which sound will get someone's attention immediately. But did we test how many times that particular sound you would hear before it got to a state of like, this is sheer terror and oh my God, attentional whiplash?
And to connect this back to the pizza tracker, I think the emotional ergonomics there was that it has taken this timer experience where you might just be anxious. Did they get my order? Is it coming? Is it late? And turned into this kind of more pleasant, reassuring experience of, oh, okay, it was just taken out of the oven and you kind of feel, oh, I can relax.
Yeah, I don't have to call the teenager who's working at midnight being like, hello, where's my pizza? Versus being on hold with whatever, the doctors, the IRS, whoever it might be, and hearing hold music that's very staticky and really terrible. And once in a while, they'll get back on and be like, we're so sorry to keep you waiting.
Yeah.
Please don't hang up. And that's it.
It feels like specifically within the food industry, like the lesson of the pizza tracker is this reminder to think about people's emotions. Like I think no one is unaware that as a waiter or as a barista, you should think about the emotional experience of your customer and try and be nice and be reassuring and think about how they're feeling and whether they're having a good time. But then when you have like food delivery or like a food experience that's more digital, the pizza trackers kind of remind us that like it's still really important. Like people's emotions as they're like interacting with your brand or your product. And you should be thinking about like how to give people a pleasant experience or at least like alleviate potential anxiety.
I think that it's actually so much more important when food experiences become digitized that we don't forget about the emotional experience that is still happening, right? So when you're in a restaurant, everything is designed to be a sensory experience. And when you have thought about designing for the sensory experience, in some ways, the emotional design of the experience is like it's baked in. In cyberspace, you are looking at food without smelling it, touching it, tasting it, feeling the heat from it. Like in that particularly sterile environment, I think it becomes more important to just like, okay, how do we intentionally design for emotional states that are changing when we don't have access to smells, we don't have access to temperature, we have no access to anything other than visuals. And what that defaults to is you can now play around with emotions that are tethered to time instead of tethered to any of the other things that are sensory about a person waiting for food.
Well, that's a nice place to end. So let's finish with our two final questions. First off, I would love to know, what is something about the business side of the food industry that you really wish more people understood?
I wish more people understood how much science and technology goes into you getting a product to your door. Like whether that is orange juice or a snack bag, or if we're talking about packaged goods, I want you to know that like $1.29 is a small part of covering some scientist like measuring the food acoustics of this thing being crunchy versus crispy against the molars of your teeth. Like I think my favorite conversations are with the food scientists and the chemists that are behind these products who like are measuring with a decibel meter the acoustic sound level of this rice cereal crunching to be able then to map the comfort level of how much reverberation you're feeling in your skull. And that to me is like, that is worth paying a little bit more for a premium product because that is the level of engineering that goes into it. And I think it's such a good example of like, there is somebody out there who cares so much about the sensory experience you are having.
All right. And second question, what is one food or drink experience you recommend to everyone?
The one I highly recommend everybody have is you should try a fruit that you have never tried before. No spoilers. I very much call this like no spoilers fruit, which is like you, and I'm not talking about like try a cara cara blood orange so that it's different than a navel orange. No,
Right.
I'm talking about you try a completely new fruit in the grocery store that you don't even know what it's called. You have no idea what it's going to smell like inside. You have no idea what part you're supposed to eat. You have no idea if it's ripe or not. You must eat this fruit with the same curiosity as the first human who ever successfully ate this fruit, because that human might have died. So I recommend that for everybody to do. Whether it's a fruit or a dish, like whatever it is, you should try it out, see what happens. It will expand your horizons of curiosity.
All right. Shugang, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about pizza trackers.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the very first episode of Gastronomics. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing or leaving a rating and review or sharing it with a friend. It will really help the show. One question I keep getting about the Domino's Pizza Tracker is it real? Is someone at Domino's really hitting a button every time the pizza tracker updates, or is it all smoke and mirrors, a rough time estimate dressed up as a precise tracker? The internet is actually full of lore and investigations into this, and I do have an answer based on conversations with Domino's employees, past and present. I wrote about it on my Substack. You can find that article and sign up for my newsletter at alexmayasi.substack.com. Special thanks this week to Kate Mishkin, Lauren Fries, and Jay Cowett, and to Mark Dent and Catherine Laidlaw of The Hustle. Thanks for listening.